Welcome back here on Live Now from Fox. It is 10:48 on the East Coast and 7:48 on the West Coast. My name is Josh Breslow, and I do want to get you to some breaking news that we are following here at this hour. Take a look as Attorney General Pam Bondi has announced 2 arrests in the wake of a protest that interrupted a church service in St. Paul over the weekend. Bondi initially posted this right here on social media saying, "Minutes ago, at my direction, Homeland Security and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we have arrested Nekima Levi Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing the coordinated attack on City's Church in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will share more updates as they become available. Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship."
Get your house in order. Don't pretend to be a church while harboring evil. They beaten and attacked immigrants and U.S. citizens. The reality is the house of the Lord is a place where love lives. It's not a place where you can have a pastor masquerading as the director for the field office of ICE in St. Paul. How dare you claim to be a minister of Jesus? I am a reverend, I am a lawyer, I am an activist, and I stand on the side of freedom, justice, truth, and righteousness.
Minneapolis. Federal authorities have arrested 3 individuals involved in an anti-immigration enforcement protest that disrupted a church service in Minnesota, Trump administration officials announced Thursday. Attorney General Pam Bondi confirmed the arrest of civil rights attorney Nekima Levi Armstrong, saying the incident occurred Sunday at City's Church in St. Paul, where protesters entered the sanctuary during a service. The church is led by a pastor who also serves as a local ICE official. A detail officials say escalated tensions. A second arrest was later confirmed by Bondi, followed by a third announced by FBI Director Kash Patel. The arrests unfolded as Vice President J.D. Vance arrived in the state, even as a judge dismissed related charges against journalist Don Lemon. So I am seeing this TikTok going around where people are defending the church protest, saying it was peaceful and just an exercise of free speech. Let's take a look of this TikTok video.
3 peaceful protesters in Minnesota have now been arrested and plastered all over government agency social media for peacefully protesting a pastor who is an ICE official. Nekima Levi Armstrong, Chantel Louisa Allen, and William Kelly have all been detained for alleged federal crimes. And the White House has posted a doctored photo of Nekima crying. And then here's the original. A weird fucking racist smear campaign. But I want you to see what really went down in that church from William Kelly's perspective.
As you can see, all these pretend Christians, all these comfortable white people who are living lavish, comfortable lives while children are dragged into concentration camps.
Supporters of the protest argued that those involved were simply exercising their First Amendment right to free speech, saying political expression, even when controversial, should be protected. Critics, however, say that free speech does not extend to disrupting religious services or entering private property without permission. This has sparked a broader debate over where the line is drawn between lawful protest and unlawful disruption. While the Constitution protects speech, it does not grant unlimited freedom to interfere with others' rights, leaving courts and the public divided over when protest crosses from expression into violation.
The Department of Justice is investigating the anti-ICE protesters who disrupted services at a church in Minnesota over the weekend.
But the state's attorney general claims the demonstrators and journalist Don Lemon, who was with them, did not break the federal law the DOJ is accusing them of. Doug Lazater joins us live from Washington with all the details. Hi, Doug.
Carly and Todd, good morning. This was an extraordinary escalation of the protests in Minnesota, the storming of church. Now, here's how this played out. As former CNN host Don Lemon joined with protesters who believed one of the pastors at a church in St. Paul had connections to ICE.
In the video from inside the church, protesters walk into a worship service, interrupt the sermon, and confront people who are there to pray. That is not a peaceful sidewalk protest. That is a disruption of a religious service inside a private space. Peaceful protest usually means expressing your message without interfering with others' rights. Once you enter a church uninvited and disrupt the service, that line gets crossed. You can support free speech and still acknowledge that not every action qualifies as peaceful protest. Calling this peaceful does not match what is clearly happening on camera.
What you saw there was anti-Christian, anti-law enforcement rioters storming a church in this country. And that's a violation of law. And we are absolutely investigating. Our Civil Rights Unit has already sent experts out to Minneapolis today. The Civil Rights Unit, the U.S. Attorney's Office, the FBI, DHS is investigating this, because what you saw the fear in the eyes of the members of that church.
And that same debate now extends beyond the protesters themselves to those who help amplify the incident. A federal magistrate judge in Minnesota has declined a request from the Justice Department to charge former CNN host Don Lemon for his involvement in Sunday's disruption of a church service in St. Paul. Lemon, who was among dozens of demonstrators inside City's church, live-streamed the protest as worship was underway. According to a source familiar with the situation, Attorney General Pam Bondi was angered by the judge's decision and planned to travel to Minnesota following the ruling. Earlier Thursday, Bondi announced the arrests of two prominent local activists tied to the disturbance, Mekima Levy Armstrong and Chanta Louisa Allen, a Black Lives Matter leader and member of the St. Paul Public Schools Board of Education.
Remember that church incident on Sunday in Minneapolis? The AG Pam Bondi posted this, all right? I'm reading now. Minutes ago at my direction, HSI and FBI agents executed an arrest in Minnesota. So far, we've arrested okay, we'll come back to that. So far, we have arrested Mekima Levy Armstrong, who allegedly played a key role in organizing the coordinated attack on City's church in St. Paul, Minnesota. We will share more updates as they become available. Listen loud and clear. We do not tolerate attacks on places of worship, end quote. I want you to react to that, Paul. But on Monday, Tricia McLaughlin was on with Dana and me. And part of her answer said, I think we will be seeing mugshots very soon. She was tipping her hand that arrests were on the way, and this is the first one that's been made.
Yeah, and, look, there's going to be very, very little that they can do in defense of this because it's on film, and for once, they didn't cover their faces. Now, here is the thing that's going to come out of this. You have her under arrest. Now you're going to get the communications, and this is where it starts to spider web out. You start to see who was talking to who showed up in regard, including Don Lemon. How much did they all know?
Of this, Phil, the reports are that this magistrate judge in Minneapolis has declined to sign a warrant for his arrest, apparently not persuaded by the criminal complaint filed by the DOJ that attempted to make a showing of probable cause. I'm just going to guess that it would have been the same two charges as we've seen against the earlier two, one under the FACE Act, which if it's a first violation is a misdemeanor, and one under the Klan Act, which is a conspiracy against rights, somebody else's attempt to exercise their civil rights.
Looks like Don Lemon dodged a huge bullet in his role in that church protest. A federal judge has declined the opportunity to charge Don Lemon with anything. So he may run scotch-free. Who knows? Maybe in the future, they'll gather more information. But for now, they are not charging Don Lemon with anything. Now let's think about what this creates. This creates the type of opportunity where people are going to be able to do all types of illegal activities under the guise of being a journalist.
Now here is where this story takes an interesting turn. Even as a judge declined to approve charges against Don Lemon, the debate over his role that day is not dying down. It is growing. And it is not just critics raising questions anymore. I came across a TikTok where a woman who clearly supports Don Lemon openly admits that he was not acting as a journalist during the church disruption. She acknowledges that while the judge denied the charges, what Lemon was doing went beyond reporting and crossed into participation. That is important, because when even supporters are conceding that point, it reinforces the larger issue here. This was not just journalism, it was involvement. Take a listen to what she says.
So a judge denied the arrest of Don Lemon. Yes, can you believe this crap? So far, it's just like, I guess, a little birdie came out and said that the judge said, nah, we're not going to put an arrest warrant for Don Lemon. Of course, he's using the whole journalism and all that stuff to protect himself. Now, we all know that he was not being a journalist at this time. I don't care if he used to be a journalist. I don't care if he has a journalist degree. He was not being a journalist during that time. He is not actively doing journalism. He is actively participating in the protesters' documentation of what they do.
When even his own supporters admit he was not acting as a journalist, that tells you everything you need to know. A judge may have denied the charges, but that decision does not automatically turn participation into journalism. This entire situation has reignited a serious question about where free speech ends, where protest crosses the line, and what real journalism is supposed to look like, especially inside a place of worship. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think this was peaceful protest, journalism, or something else entirely? If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. Your support helps keep these conversations going.